All right, welcome back in the Bobby Carpenter Show. And as always on Mondays, we got our guy, Lathan Ransom, here with us. Super excited for him to join us back in Columbus, Ohio. Lathan, and, we had the spring game. The weather was pretty nice. It was sunny, a little chilly, but not too bad. Did you get a chance to take that in and go through the whole ring ceremony with everything?
Of course, yeah, I got to get in the shoe. Again, it was nice to be there, see all the fans, see Buckeye Nation, and got to be with some of my old teammates, see some of the younger guys out there making plays, and then of course it was nice, to go through the ring ceremony.
Hey, talk a little. Honestly, do you have them there? Can you walk us through the rings that you got? 3 rings. You
Yeah,
got 3 rings. You won a national championship, you get 3.
yeah.
Walk
So
us through each individual one.
okay, so we'll start off. I got them for you guys. We'll start off with the Cotton Bowl ring. I like this ring a lot. I got the red in it right here. It got the fight. It got the fight. I got the score on the side. It got and then it got the Rose Bowl on the other side, with my last name, which is pretty
Nice.
dope. This is actually my first time really looking at the rings. Yesterday was so busy. Like I got here, I looked at the main one, and then I really didn't even get a chance to like break them all down. So this is doing this
This
for
is
the first
great.
time
Break
as
them
well.
down just on the fly.
And this one right here, this is another national championship ring before the main one. Got the main thing. Got the side right here.
All right.
Got my name and the score. And then on the inside it says Ohio State against the world, which is pretty dope. Or
Love
Ohio
it.
against the world.
So here's the deal: as you get ready to pull out the last one. So that last one you just showed, that was like the CFP. They have their own ring, and those all kind of look the
Okay.
same, I guess, because they kept that same trophy. So, like I guess the 2014 team, they've got one that's similar to that, and so we had a BCS one that was given to us by the BCS, and then I think that first one you showed, that was kind of like the bowl ring for the Cotton Bowl and the Rose, and then the last one is like the national championship that you guys got to design like holy. And so let's take a look at that, because that thing's got all kinds of bells and whistles and stuff I've never even seen before.
Yeah, first of all, this ring is huge.
Yeah.
This the ring right here. It's the top of it. Like it takes up damn near my whole finger, which is dope. It got the 8 right here with the diamonds on it. It got oh damn, I didn't even see that. It says championship right here.
Nice.
I got I'm pretty sure you have to score again right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's diamonds all over this. I know you guys can't even see it. What my favorite part is right here though, man. They put the cross inside the ring, and
Oh,
I don't know if I've seen that really on some other championship rings, and I think that embodies our season, embodies our culture, and then it's pretty dope. You get to open it up right here. Got some confetti from the game. Got the field. Got all the scores on this side. Breaks it down. So, I think the guy, Coach Day, killed it with these rings, man. And the fact that I'm in a small group now of guys that got national championship rings is pretty amazing.
so Coach Day, because sometimes everybody does a little bit different. Sometimes the players get involved, and you guys had a bevy of rings that had to get designed, and I don't think we got ours near as fast as you. Was that all Coach Day? Was there player input on this? Kind of how did that go? Do you know?
Yeah, it was Coach Day, and then the captains designed it. So I think they killed it designing it and putting it together, man. And yeah, so I think that just to be in that small group for the rest of my life, man, it is exciting. It's definitely exciting.
Well, and I'll tell you this. Hopefully, was every I looked like most of the guys were back. Was everybody back on Saturday?
Um, I don't know if everyone was back, but it was most of the guys. I'm pretty sure.
And it's wild. Are you going to be able to go? Are you going to the White House visit? Are
Yeah,
you gonna,
so I actually can't go. I have a Cleveland visit
oh,
the next day, like early in the morning. So I got to prepare for that and get ready for that. But I'm definitely jealous of the guys that get to go and experience that.
yeah, and see, this is what stinks, because you're a senior, so you're on your way out, and I mean, it's sad, but probably the last time that you guys will all have been together was that the celebration in the shoe. Because now, like you said, even the White House guys are got visits, they've got stuff going on, everybody's got their own deal. So, Lathan, the next time you guys might all be together is probably like the 10-year anniversary, and maybe not even then, because you guys will still be playing and everything. And so some of the younger guys will still be playing in the league. And so the first time that we kind of had everyone back together again, like was our 20-year union. And so you go through that run with these guys and everything that is together. And it's kind of a sobering reality when you look at how tight you were and then everybody goes their own ways. And it's just really hard to get that connective group back in one place again.
20 years is crazy. Yeah, I can't even to even look that far ahead is crazy to see what everyone's gonna look like. Which guy's gonna lose all their hair and look old. So which guys are gonna get overweight. So I can't wait. I can't wait to look down that line.
Hey, we talk about winning a championship as like a blood transfusion. Give us a couple of just like off the top of your head things of going through that year and how those lessons have impacted you now as you prepare for the next level.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson, man, was just facing adversity. I'm a guy that's faced a lot of adversity at Ohio State, but the amount of adversity that our team has faced, I think just bringing the team together. I think when you face them two losses, that can either tear a team apart or bring us closer together. And then also just showing how much the little things mean, how important they are, and important it is in doing your job. Those are the biggest things that I take away from this season, man. Is the first game I feel that was really on us when we lost to Oregon was the defense, and then the offense hasn't played that well against Team Up North. So then there you can't really point fingers when the defense you see when they don't do their job, they'll execute what the outcome is. When the offense doesn't do their job, execute, see what the outcome is. So when we all came together and realized that the most important thing is doing your job, executing at a high level every play, and then being the most physical team out there. You see how great we can be. So I don't think that winning a national championship there wasn't. Like a crazy, different game plan out there. It's just the fundamentals and doing our job and doing the little things right. And that's what I took away, from this season through facing adversity.
You were a tremendous leader in the back end and doing a great job with communication there. And, a couple of the young guys, they're, working in at safety with, Jalen and Malik. And as you see those guys, how's something do you try to, and obviously they'll have Caleb there, which will help a lot, but, just talking to them, as you're on your way out about how to lead, how to, hold that standard. You start talking about, BIA and everything like that, and just maintaining that because now you were a part of it for so long, but you're almost kind of handing all of that over, to Caleb, but then also those young guys.
Yeah, I think first of all is building a routine first. That's something I tried to leave this year is show them, a routine that like I had basically living in the facility every day when I get a free time hopping on the show. But yeah, just building that routine and then it's just a mindset, man. Going out there on the field, no matter who you're going against every time, no matter if it's the sixth fall camp practice, it's that mindset that you're gonna go out there every day and dominate. That's really what I'm trying to leave with them. Go out there, compete, talk trash, and have a chip on your shoulder. That's something I tried to do, man. No matter what practice it was, what last day of camp, last day of spring ball, maybe we're in some spiders. I'm trying to go out there and be as physical as I can, within within obviously the rules and stuff, but be as physical as I can and go out there and compete and make the guys around me better every day. And then by doing that, then you can push other guys and bring them along because they see that you're the standard, and then you can coach and help guys go along. But first of all, you have to be the standard. So that's what I'm trying to do with the younger guys and hope that they understand that.
Give us some takeaways from the game. You're out there again, you get to chop it up with your boys. Some things you saw, you were at practice earlier in the week. Like, what are some things that you're seeing defensively and offensively that get you juiced up for the 2025 season for the Buckeyes?
Yeah, first of all, what got me excited for him and Inky's picks, those got me excited, man. Especially the young safety freshman getting out there and getting a pick in the shoe. I know that was big time. Especially first time in the shoe to make a play like that. Inky, I see he works and grinds and shows up every day. For him to get an interception in the shoe was super exciting. But we'll start with the offense. I think the offense actually looked really good. Once they got going after the first couple drives, I thought they moved the ball really well. I thought they drew up some good plays. Getting the ball to the tight ends, getting them to the receivers. I think Mylan Graham, he's a dude that I've been high on since last year, and a guy that every time I've been in the facility, watching film and stuff late at night, early, he was in there watching film. I would always laugh. He's in there, the room complete dark, just right in front of the thing. And I'm like, man, that's a dude that's locked in, and those things that you like to see, from young guys and freshmen. So I'm not surprised to see him making plays out there. I thought both quarterbacks looked really well, looked really good. So that was exciting. I'm excited to, to continue to watch that quarterback battle and, see how that's going to unfold. And then with the defense, it was cool to, see the younger guys going around. I think seeing some of the younger linebackers flying around, making some big hits. Seeing Jalen Malik out there having some tackles, Caleb making plays. And then the corners, competing. So it was exciting, man, to watch that. It was definitely different, seeing a different defense and just different calls. But other than that, man, I can't wait to see what this team does and how they develop, through fall camp.
All right, before we get you out of here, Lathan, we know you got some yoga. You're trying to get flexible. You're always working the guns. I tell Malik, like, that's the next stage. Like, we got to get to that point where we got some arms and we'll come down and hit like Lathan. You got a little yoga, staying flexible. But what's the schedule looking like? The rest of this week. You mentioned you got to visit with Cleveland. The draft, I believe, is in 2 weeks.
Yep.
So how does this next week kind of look?
Yeah, so now it's I'm just training, for football. I'm being ready for, when my name gets called, to be out there, be ready to get through a 16 period practice, or however long the mini camp is and the rookie mini camp is, and to be out there and be at my highest level. But I'm going to the facility, getting my treatment with Stu. I'm working out with AT and Higgs and all the guys in there, Coach Mick. Working out with some of the other guys that are out here too, which has been a lot of fun. It feels like we're still around the facility a lot. And then I have that 30 visit with Cleveland on Tuesday, which I'm excited for. So go out there and do my thing up there, and then continue to train, man, and get excited for these next 2 weeks, to go back there with my family and celebrate.
Well, enjoy it. Have fun. Tell my man Swartzy up there, their D coordinator. He was my head coach in Detroit. And so
Okay.
he's a good dude, man. You'll like that defense. There's a lot of similarities, especially for the safeties with what you've done. So exciting for you to kind of get that rolling. But have a good one, man. And we'll catch up again next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Our guy, Mr. Lathan Ransom. We're going to talk a little bit, Slicey. There was some craziness that happened, and you want me to get my rings out. So, Pat, we might have to have a quick hot second for me to grab those. But before we do that, I want to tell you about our friends over at Export. Attention, parents and athletes, protect what matters most with Export mouthguards. Export mouthguards are scientifically tested to absorb those high-impact hits, protecting both your teeth and your brain. Export mouthguards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including a patented use of carbon fiber. They 3D print those bad boys to your own unique grill for more protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication, so you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Go visit exportguards.com/Bobby today and save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. Lord of the Rings coming up next. Welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. And as always, our guy Lathan Ransom, so gracious to join us, to give us a full little ring ceremony there. Like you said, I mean, when you're getting them, you don't usually get a chance to kind of examine them. And they've got 3, and the one it's like a book. It flips open. There's all kinds of things to it. And so it's unbelievable how they slid the cross in there as well. And so he showed the one, which was the CFP ring, which, like, the 2014, which, like, you have one of those.
Right here, man. I got the box. They got a sweet box. And I was like, I open it up. What's this one, Bob? This is my favorite pair of gold pants. Boom. I just put everything in the box. There's 05. There's like 5 other pairs of gold rings. Awesome. Here is the 14 Natty. This is the 14 one.
Yeah. And so you see it it has similar with the trophy, the ball on the front, with that. So like my brother has one of those. He was on that staff with you, Schlegs. This is so we had like a little, this is how they've upgraded. This was the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl back when that was the 02 national championship. But yeah, we've got that in there. So this was the BCS ring that everybody got. It had like national championship, and score, your name, and all that stuff. And so that's the one we would get for that. And then we had and that was just a bowl game that you played the national championship in. So it's kind of changed a lot since then. And then we had our university, like our Big Ten championship ring that we had, and it, had national championship elements of it as well, that because we won the national title. So like you incorporated that, the score against Michigan was on this side with that national championship on the other side and everything. So awesome for him to get a chance to do that.
This was the 14, Bob. Like, look at the difference. Like the one that they made like this year that has a book, but again, you got 4 playoff games. This was 14.
Yeah.
It had the Sugar Bowl, Alabama, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it had the national championship versus Oregon. You only got 2 games, right? That's really the difference. And then boom, poof, David Copperfield. What was this guy? This was then what was this year? This was another national championship ring of like the same. They got like multiple. Even though I like
Yeah,
this
so
one.
you got the one from the CFP. They have the one that everybody gets. Those are all the same every year. And then you guys have your own customized one that they made.
Oh, you know what? You know what? Yeah, this was the Big Ten one.
That's
This
the
was
Big Ten
versus
championship.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Look at the difference, guys, in our 2005 Big Ten ring
Yeah.
versus like the ones that they got. Right. And then, of course, Urban, I just found this one. This was in there. Then we just made our own for 12-0.
Yeah. Why not? Had all that stuff in
Charge it
there
to win.
combined and together. So it's all good with that. And that's the beauty of the team and everything we got going there. Because I don't know if you saw this.
Oh, I've seen them. I've seen it.
And it's wild. I'm sure we'll talk about this multiple times this week because there's going to be more and more layers that
There's levels, Bob.
the levels to it all, with what ultimately went down. But the
Nico
Iamaleava situation at Tennessee.
Yeah.
And, Pat, we can start by just throwing up some of the early stuff with that on there. And he's the quarterback at Tennessee. He's been there for a couple of years. Ohio State cracked his helmet last year. And he played tough. He's a good quarterback. Is he the best in college football? I don't know at this point. I mean, he's not there, but he's a really good player. And so, like, the rumor was, like, when they signed him, it was like a 4-year deal for like $8 or $9 million. He was making a little over $2 million a year. And so I believe this is going into his third season. So his first year didn't play. And so they paid him basically $2 million a year to kind of sit there. And then he started last year, looked pretty good, made some plays. And Pete Thamel was reporting that he, was like kind of holding out the day before the spring game, wanted more money. And then it comes out, the day of the spring game, and I don't know how much he was asking for. And they say Carson Beck got $4 million to go to Miami, whatever. And he wanted more money. And I don't know if he has a place to go or whatever. But then the next thing comes out is he's getting in the portal, and Tennessee said, we've got our guys and we feel good about it. And at some point, there needed to be a pushback to where you agreed to a deal. They paid you, number one, to sit on the sidelines at the beginning. And that's what's crazy with some of these guys when they want these dollars to come to school. Like, you cannot be paid more than the starters just to come there and sit. You can earn those dollars later, but it's gotten sideways. And so he's not going to be with the Tennessee Volunteers. He got in the portal. Now, maybe he could always come back, but it sounds like that bridge has ultimately been burned.
Well, I just going back and reading the ESPN article. It was a 10-year or a $10 million. He wanted
$10 million, even better.
Right. He was making $2.4 million.
Yeah.
On the contract. It was, again, reported $8 million signed. They were paying him while he was still in high school. So he's making that money. But this goes back to, and again, I've heard a bunch of people like, well, then if you're going to get upset that he's leaving, holding out, doing whatever, then don't get upset about coaches. The problem is, guys, is that because you have two portals, you have two opportunities of negotiating a contract. Like, you can't, in the NFL, like, you have a contract that you're on. There's certain times of years where it's like, hey, I want to restructure this, or I want to do this. Like, there's just one finite time. A lot of people try to get that stuff done before OTAs or before you even go into camp. But you work that deal for 2 or 3 years, and then you restructure it and you go. Like, why wasn't this restructured at this time? Like, it was almost like at the beginning, before winter conditioning. Like, hey, let's go back through. Like, I had a really good season. These guys are making $4 million, go somewhere else. I'm making 2.4. Why can't I make 3? Why can't I make 3.5? You already have those discussions already. Then now to redo it, it's like, oh, I'm going to hold them kind of hostage. Maybe that's how I'm kind of looking at it. Or I'm going to hop in the portal. The problem is, who's going to be his suitor? And for him, because again, the reason why everybody wanted that portal in the summer was because they wanted, for roster management purpose. I go back that it should be after the season. So, there's a lot of different layers to this, but you had a program that said, no, we're not going to be held hostage to a guy. But also, what is the precedent? It's not just for the quarterback position. They just made a decision that as a standard here, we're not going to be held hostage to somebody that wants to go do this every single time, because once it happens to the quarterback, it's going to happen to a wide receiver or a running back or a D lineman or a D end, or it just keeps going down where you have guys holding out and you got to pay them. And that's not what they want to be about. So,
Well,
and then go ahead, Bob.
Well, if you're going to like bring guys in, and this is, Ohio State has their philosophy. Everyone's got kind of a different philosophy on it. But you pay someone a fair amount coming in, and then when they play, like we'll pay you more, and we'll figure that out, and whatever that deal is going to be, everybody will understand it, and you'll know it. Um, but you don't ever want to get guys that are last dollar guys. Like if you think you're getting a guy because you've got to outbid someone, and then you're talking about Schlegs paying someone $500,000, and someone's like, well, they offered me 550. And it's like, all right, for the last 50 grand. Not that that's insignificant, but if you're going to leave over that, then okay. At some point, like you're not the type of guy that we want. You're not an OKG, Schlegs, our kind of guy. And so Ohio State has a plan. They have a process. Mark Pantonia, their GM, we talked about, he's getting his new deal. And to be able to work through all this, because there's a lot of logistics of trying to figure this thing out. And then this also comes into play as we talk, this house settlement, when they get all that figured out, they ultimately have to kind of get that hammered in place so that you don't have these situations. And, coaches can leave. I get it. They're able to get out of there and they can do stuff, but they also have buyouts. Like someone has to pay the buyout. Like when Jim Knowles left to go to Penn State, like there was a buyout that had to be paid for him. Like, and so either your next school's paying that or you've got to pay it or however that looks. But there are some stipulations in the NFL. Yeah, you can hold out, but they can fine you.
Right.
And so it's a function of like, okay, do you want to forego a season's worth of salary trying to get a new deal? Maybe you do. And maybe it's worth it. But also, like you said, like, having multiple opportunities to do this and now someone else got paid, like if you just got a new contract and then someone else gets a new contract right after you, you can't go back and say, well, mine's not good enough anymore.
Right.
No, you just signed it. Like that's not how the world works. And you sign that contract and that's part of it. And so I tend to see a lot of credit and respect for holding firm on there. I don't know if we've got this in there, Pat. I saw this. And so like the question is like, where's he going to go? And just talking to some people, Ohio State, I'm like, do you think he has a landing spot? Or some of them were speculating that he just may have, they may have just called his bluff. Like, because it's pretty late. The timing is not ideal, but you'd be talking about bringing a quarterback in, Schlegs, to be your starter that you would have to pay a ton of money to and bring him in post-spring.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to get any reps until the fall. Like, it's a crazy, crazy process that would be. And so people have speculated him going to USC, and maybe that's it. But maybe he doesn't have a spot as well.
And the biggest thing too, Bob, when you say all that is like, it's now a story.
Yeah.
And it's now, and then people were like, walk with me here on this one about him coming to Ohio State. I'm like, that's the absolute worst decision.
No.
Again, it's not, I think too many times we always talk about, like we've been talking about this show, the fits of our young men in the NFL and the why behind them. We are able to talk about the expectation is being a team and being something that you're proud of. And then you go in, you have a situation like this, regardless, calling the bluff or whatever, moving. And again, I get all the money, but then what does it do to the culture? It's like, hey, I got my guys that went through spring, they went through winter conditioning, and now I'm just going to bring this guy in, right? And let's not kid ourselves. We're also at Ohio State are going to be looking in the portal for certain positions too, going into fall camp. But it's very different than the quarterback position because again, all of football, NFL and college, it's all about the quarterback position and who you got in the room. But more importantly, what does that do collectively to the team and to the culture, which we saw at Ohio State was the reason they were able to go make that run because everybody was together. And why us as former players, and Chris Carter was even talking about it, about that these guys genuinely love each other. So how does that dynamic impact you? So there's a lot to, unwrap in this.
There is a ton. And then, they talked about Oregon, and when this started leaking out and more details of this like started coming out, and people were like, well, would he be going to Oregon or something like that? And I think his agent, his representation was probably looking around saying, hey, where are places that lost a quarterback that maybe would need one? And maybe they aren't necessarily in love with their guy out of spring. But it was reported, and I don't know if we have this in there, like I said, Pat, if we can toss that up, about Dan Lanning reportedly, I guess, and I don't know if this has been corroborated, I floated it to some people, and they were probably more on the side that this did happen versus didn't, without having any inside knowledge, because some of the coaches now, like, this is getting ridiculous, that he was maybe sniffing around Oregon, and Dan Lanning or someone at Oregon via him got a hold of Tennessee and be like, hey, Your quarterback's calling us, talking about if he's available in the portal, probably dollars of what it would take to get him done. And so kudos for Dan Lanning to be a dude and say, hey, you may want to know this. Your girl might be stepping out on you, and she's trying to step out with me. And I'm not about that life. And I'm not going to offer somebody something that's still somewhere else. You have to start thinking, like, if you're doing that now, like, what the heck, what kind of leader, like, what does all that look like as far as the guy that you're supposed to be, man? There's so much more to being a quarterback than just throwing a football.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing with this, and there's people that are talking about like, well, it's collusion, it's people talking to each other, but I'm gonna tell you this, guys. Like, at some point, let's go look at Ohio State. You're in the midst of a championship run, the playoffs. You're playing Tennessee, you're playing, Oregon, you're playing Texas, you're playing Notre Dame, and in the midst of that, you got people trying to pilfer your dues, right? We've talked ad nauseum about, what, like, even guys that are on special teams that we're no longer there, how that's live bullets that you don't get back, and you got somebody else going. That's roster management. And so not only are you game planning, trying to win a game, but you're also having to talk to your own guys about the value that they have. So you're re-recruiting your guys on a weekly basis because everybody else is sniffing around. You're talking to God bless Mark Pantoni. And then also that falls on to, Ryan Day. Praise God, he had Chip Kelly like, hey, run this stuff. I got to deal with this. Man, like, there is just so much going on there than people realize in the midst of just trying to win a season. You don't have that in the NFL. Like, you play through your contract. We're there. Everybody's on the team because here's how it goes. They're going to go to training camp. A lot of people are OTAs. Boom. You have OTA phase 1. You have OTA phase 2. You have OTA phase 3. You have mandatory minicamp. You have 6 weeks off, and then you start camp. That's it. How those contracts are negotiated throughout that timeline is how they're negotiated. Then once you're on the roster and they make their cuts, you have 53 that has also 70 of practice squad guys, right? Because of the COVID area, they jumped that up because you also only had 60. Now you have 70. And then boom, now you got your 70-man roster, of which 53 are active, of which 45 play. And that's it. And that's what you got. You got free agents that you could bring and pick and choose and pull through. And then you finish the season, you accomplish the mission, and then it resets.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it goes. That is not how college football goes.
No, not right now. All right. What we're going to do, we're going to put a little pin in this because there's still some more details and tentacles about this. And this is the first big time. Like, people are thinking, why is this a big deal? Because this is the first time that someone ever bowed up and said, hey, go ahead and walk. Like, publicly. And it's a high-profile team. They were in the playoffs last year. They played Ohio State in a high-profile player, high-profile position, big-time recruit, all of those things. And so we're putting a pin in that. We'll come back to that in headlines because there's a couple more layers that we need to dive into with it. And I'm sure we'll be diving into this all throughout the week as more stuff comes out. It's like an onion slice. It's got layers. But next, we're going to do something pretty unique. We're going to start doing our little draft day breakdown. We'll call it the prospect preview, if you will. And today's prospect preview is going to feature none other than Ohio State running back, Mr. TreVeyon Henderson. So we will dive into his breakdown and what his future potentially looks like next on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Welcome back in the Bobby Carpenter Show. And please, we love it. The fact that you're watching here, subscribe, leave your comments, share with friends, post it everywhere you can. We love all of the promotion. We thank you for all of the help in that. So we got over to 10,000 subscribers, and heck, we'll hopefully be to 11,000 here before too long. Keep this thing growing and sharing, and hopefully getting some
growing and showing, baby.
Well, hopefully getting some new distribution as well, as we're on FanDuel TV. And then I think potentially some future on some radio syndications throughout Ohio as well. So a lot of different stuff in the works. I want to start breaking down TreVeyon Henderson. A lot of people have the third or fourth ranked running back in this class, 5'10", 202 pounds. He's 22 years old, incredibly fast. We know about his speed. You've watched his game-breaking ability, compact build, accelerates really well, ball security very good, runs behind his pads. He's great in pass pro, as you've seen that multiple times, and has good hands out of the backfield.
Yeah, Yeah. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, you talk a little bit. Give me some of your
You know
stuff.
what? You know what? You said that, and the ball security thing, guys. Remember, 0 lost fumbles. 0 lost. Has he fumbled the ball? Yes. Did he lose them? No. So 0 lost fumbles in a career, if I'm not mistaken, Bob. That is pretty ridiculous. Number 2, he's a complete 3-down running back. Now, what does that look like when you're blocking, the safeties and the linebackers in the NFL? But the dude is not afraid to stick his nose in there for his teammates and is phenomenal at pass pro. Okay. Home run ability. Okay. Then they talk about some of the things, tight hips, patience, and tempo. I think that Trey can, again, the game is different in the NFL. You guys all remember how we absolutely hate zone into the boundary or toss sweep into the boundary. Why do we hate that design, that run in college? The hash marks are wider, everybody. But in the NFL, it's honestly basically the middle of the field all the time. So all things are open. I think that right there, kind of like that patience and tempo, actually dissipates a little bit because of the different nature of the game of football, simply because of the hashes. It gives them more freedom. Other things that they don't talk about, that's more physical. Trey is a leader. Trey's a great human being. Trey's going to add a lot to their culture, as well as being really, really physical. And that's something you want. You have an opportunity of drafting a back that is all of those things, a game breaker, somebody that can break somebody's back and go 75 yards for a touchdown on the last play of the half. Great in pass pro. I think he's a complete back. That's why I think he's very valuable at the next level.
Well, you mentioned that, Schlegs. The complete back, I think, is a big piece of it. He can do everything, the blocking, obviously good at running. He has good hands out of the backfield. Acceleration, he's a home run hitter. And one of the numbers that they had up there, I think 10, 20, 22, basically 1 in every 5 of his carries was a 10-plus gain. I mean, that's a testament to the offensive line, but that's also a testament that when the play is there, I mean, he does more with it than maybe other people would have expected him to. And so he does a good job of accelerating, getting out, and being able to have those big home run hits. If you're going to be a back that's drafted high, Schlegs, you can't just be a running back. You have to be a game breaker. And so Trey has that game breaking ability. Couple of his issues, they talk about his tight hipped. A lot of guys that are crazy fast like that's something that just comes along with it. They mentioned patience and tempo getting the hole, which I think was maybe more of an issue early in his career. It seemed like he got better at that and being more patient, finding the hole his senior year. And especially on the final, 7, 8, 9 games of the season, it seemed like he was doing a much, much better job being able to identify that, whether it's a front side, whether it's a cutback. The play against Oregon, he cut one back. You see his vision, and then all of a sudden, boom, to get over there. And then the last kind of piece of him was his injuries. Then his sophomore year, he had a broken bone in his foot. He had a wrist injury. And so people wonder, is he durable enough? He had over 1,000 yards this year, but he did split with Quinshon. And so Quinshon took, about half the load of the carries. But in the NFL, nobody has a guy that goes out there and carries the ball 30 times a game anymore. And so the system he was in was much more like an NFL system than it would be at probably a lot of other colleges. So it feels like he's kind of prepared for that as well.
Yeah, and that's where I think where in today's game, the running back position of not being as first round, all the running backs are going, right, Bob? To where when we were growing up, to where the position is who do you have on your roster that complements somebody that you need in a TreVeyon Henderson? Because there is going to be some splitting of the load. That's why I thought the dynamic duo of him and Q was fantastic, because it was that kind of that, thunder and lightning I heard somebody talk about. But that's what you have. A lot of those guys in the league, it's not just somebody that, does it every single down. Saquon doesn't do it even every single down. He does a lot, but he's not an every single down back. The game has just changed to where it's you're going to have some people that can take off the load because they want you to do what you're best at, and that's break it open. And back to your patience thing, I think a lot of that has to do with also the continuity of the offensive line. So even if you take this year, maybe they're not showing as much patience, a lot of that is through drill work and consistency and what it is those guys do. Remember, we went from a zone team to really a gap team. It was predominantly in the NFL. It's like 70% zone and 30% gap. At Ohio State, it was more zone than gap. And then we kind of made it similar across the board. And we had to, right? When you have younger guys to be able to get to the second level and create the seams. So that's a little bit different too. And you don't have to have a lot of patience when it's gap because you know where it's going to be because the hole is dictated. Yeah. It's cut at the second level, and he's really, really good at that.
Absolutely. A lot of people have him second round grade. I mean, I could see him sneaking into the end of the first round, probably behind Genty, potentially right there. Really, really explosive player, though. But that is our prospect preview with TreVeyon Henderson. Coming up next, we got our headlines. We're going to dive back in to that Nico Iamaleava situation, followed by some tailgate talk where we'll give you our thoughts from the spring game. Huge, robust show. So stay with us. Coming up next. We are into our headlines. Our headlines are brought to you by Lake Spur Marketing. Lake Spur Marketing, full service ad agency. Schlegs, they will build your team. They will help shield your team from the outside noise and all the cold callers. They let you do what you do best. You can work on the business because the stuff, as you always say, to work in your business and on your business. They're going to handle the other part of that. They've got over 100 years of marketing experience. They do a great job there. And Lake Spur eliminates the waste, and they deliver on budget and on time, which is huge. They don't chase clicks. They build partnerships. Lake Spur Marketing, the proof is in their partners. So go check them out for all of your marketing needs. So we're going to dive back in that Nico Iamaleava situation. And it's wild. And so like the next iteration of that, as we've been kind of talking about it, is what do the fans think? You know, if this is Ohio State, like I always try to bring it local, like the fans think. And what's wild is, you know, Heupel informs his team that they're moving on. Like, so he got in the portal, Schlegs, and he could come back technically, but Josh Heupel informing his team that they're moving on probably means that bridge has been burned. He said no one is bigger than the program, and that's the reality of it. And you know, you've got to understand that. And this is going to be the case no matter if you're the quarterback and how good you are. At some point, you've got to be a team dude with it. But how do the fans think? 'Cause that's what people are interesting. Like, do you side with the player? Do you side with the coach? And in the NFL, it's wild. Like a lot of pro sports and guys hold out. People always sign with the organization. I'm like, I understand this.
Yeah.
Guys are trying to get paid. They're trying to do this. Like they have a year left. Teams don't want to take care of them. But this is just a much different situation because you agree to the contract. You have the opportunity to then just ultimately get up and leave. Yeah. And so the fans in Tennessee, I think, realize if you bend the knee at this situation, it's going to open up like a precedent that I don't think you're going to want to get into.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you're absolutely right, Bob. I mean, we you know, in Cleveland, Myles Garrett, right, was going under a contract negotiation. You got in Cincy and you know, pay the man. Like we root for our guys at the next level because they represent us and we have the fandom. And I think in college football, it's just different because of the how new NIL is for everybody and the amount of money that guys are able to make in a very short amount of time. Like this happened and it's just like, boom, where's the ceiling? You know, what's going on? Where's the salary cap? Like they don't have any. It's just kind of based on what does the school want to spend right now. So it is the wild, wild west. And we go back, like there was nobody that was an adult that just got on a whiteboard and drank some Monster Dickles and put all this out there before it happened. They just said, hey, you guys figure it out, you know? And we're at that point where the high profile guy, you know, a good young quarterback says, I want more in the midst of something that he's already agreed to at a time of year in which is trying to put all the pressure on the program to keep him here and pay him what he wants so they can potentially have success for the next year without thinking about the precedent that it would set for the university for anybody else that wants to go do this moving forward. And I believe in college football more than the NFL. Because again, in the NFL, you're dealing with professional athletes. It's just different. Like the mindset, these guys already are pros, but the mindset of being a pro potentially is not there because there's no guidelines to what a contract actually is in college.
Yeah.
What you have to do to fulfill a contract. Oh, I got an NIL deal. Well, that means you have to go and you got to put stuff on social media like every single week because that's how your money is generated to show a return on investment from the company. I don't necessarily want to do it. Well, you just broke your contract. Like those things are happening now to 18 and 22-year-olds, and nobody's really articulating that to them. And so now you have an opportunity at a university where, like, you know what, we're not going to bend over. We have somebody else that we believe in. We might go to the portal and bring a veteran guy in for competition, and we need some more depth, but it ain't going to be this. And do you really want that in your locker room? What's really going to allow you to be successful next year? So bumpy.
A lot of stuff there. What wasn't maybe a little bit bumpy, but Ohio State had their spring game. Lathan touched on a little bit at the beginning of the program, and we'll talk about this throughout the week. But we've got our tailgate talk coming up next, and we're going to break down our biggest takeaways from the spring game coming up next. Welcome back in to the Bobby Carpenter Show, and we've got our tailgate talk brought to you by our friends at Real Truck. Bring your truck, Jeep, Bronco to life at realtruck.com. Schlegs, you watched the spring game. What were your thoughts on the spring game?
I thought the offense was really good. Them being able to pass the ball for 450 yards. And again, guys, it's scarlet and gray. The point system is bumpy, right? I mean, for the defense, defensively, you only get 6 points if you score a touchdown. To me, that should be 12. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so hard to score defensive points in a game like this. But hey, man, like, kudos to the offense. Like, they played really well. I thought the quarterbacks played really well. Julian Saint had 2 touchdowns, high completion percentage. Liam Kehoe threw 175 yards, a touchdown. St. Clair, he's young, dude. Like, he just got in the mix.
Got a couple picks. He also threw some really nice stuff too. Like, looked good at times, which is what you're going to have.
Yeah, no doubt. And the offensive line, still some stuff there. We knew the inside part was going to be really, really good. Austin Severfield moved out to right tackle. You got Ethan O, right? He's over there at the left tackle. But there's still going to be a lot of moving around. Like, the beautiful thing about spring ball is it just gives you a glimpse of where you got to go. And I make sure everybody understands this. Spring ball is great because you saw the work that you did in the winter, and then you have to be able to go play real football. And then you can't confuse activity with achievement. Like, the achievement is like, how did you do during spring football? And then now it's like, okay, what are the areas in which I personally have to work on? Our unit, linebacker, whatever, have to work on. Our holistically defense, what do we have to work on? Now you got all that time, offense, all that time, right? And Ryan Day's looking over at what does the team need to improve? That's what the spring ball does. It gives you a glimpse into that. And then how are we going to go attack those areas of weaknesses and enhance our strengths? That's the beauty of spring football. And I think you got a lot of that kind of stuff answered here when you have some guys that you've not seen. CJ Donaldson looked really good, but Max, what's Max's last name? Claire? Is it Claire?
Max Claire.
Yeah, Max Claire looks really good, right? Had a seam over the middle, boom, touchdown.
I thought Logan looked really good on the defensive side, on the edge. Rushing. Yeah. There was a couple of things, but look at everybody's like focusing on the quarterbacks, and they have the stats and the numbers out there. Julian, I thought this was one of Julian's best performances, I think, in the spring, like with practices and everything else. Looked really good. I thought Lincoln had a couple that he was a little errant on, but still looked pretty competent. And obviously you can see his ability to move and do some things. The stats don't really tell the whole story, like watching the game and seeing, hey, are you getting through your progressions? Are you getting it to the right receiver? When you throw it there, you're throwing it with accuracy and timing. And so maybe not the best day of that for Lincoln. He's been better. I think, some of the times in the spring when they went live a few times, Lincoln played a little better than Julian. And so that's something that he's going to have to overcome to Ryan is, hey, if I'm going to be the guy that's going to win this competition, it's not just throwing it on air and throwing it when you can't get hit. And some of those numbers are inflated. Like defensively, there was some sacks that would have been had. And there was some quarterback hits that would have impacted those throws. So they may not have always been on the mark. But I thought the offensive line still needs to get a little bit better on the edge, especially with some of the younger guys. Defensive line, interior of the defensive line needs to play much better. They've got to find some depth. And even K-Mac and Edric Houston have to continue to take that next step. I thought the linebackers look pretty good, although the tight ends caught a lot of balls, which that's good with Heartline. Like as far as what we're doing, who we're utilizing, you saw some of that. Back seven, I think, is going to be really good, and they should be pretty stout there. And so we'll kind of break all this down throughout the week, and we'll go probably do some position by position stuff as well. But you saw some good things, and then obviously some stuff that Ryan's saying we got to work on it this summer, make sure we get this all cleaned up. All right, that's it for this edition of Tailgate Talk. We'll get Schleg's parting thoughts. You can throw those in there if you want, Schleg's, when we wrap up the show. All right, Schleg's, wrap the show up for us. What's your parting nugget for us?
Yeah, parting nugget is, one of the things that I really liked is the tight end room. And I know people don't really like, what are you talking about, tight end? But you have, Will Kazmarek did not play in this game, okay? But you got Max Clare, you got Bennett Christian, you got Jelani Thurman. I think that because of the guys that you have in the wide receiver room and how you want to utilize that set, and we didn't show a ton of stuff, but the mismatches because of how big these dudes are and how good they can catch the football, and honestly, how good they can block is really going to be something. Coach Bailey, man, boom. Buckeyes, you've done a great job in that room. I think Max is a great addition. He's pushing everybody. But I think that room has the potential of being really, really special. And it's just going to put, stress on the linebackers in the Big Ten and across the country. What a great unit right there for Ohio State coming out of this spring.
Absolutely. It looks really good. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that as the week goes along. That's it for this Monday edition of the Bobby Carpenter Show. We will see you ready to rock on Tuesday.